Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Market Talk. Today we are joined by Simon Mussett, who is the Head of Waste Management at Sodexo UK and Ireland. And we're also joined by Lugano Kapembwa, who's the co-founder and CEO of Loopcycle. Welcome to you both. Thanks for joining us today. I thought we'd kick off just by asking you to give us some insight into your backgrounds, really, before we get on to the company side of things. Simon, you head up Sodexo's waste management activities. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what your day job involves?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you for having me on today. So my role really is overseeing the effective delivery of the waste management service line across Sodexo. So I'm one of the technical experts designing sustainable circular solutions for our clients to deliver the waste management service on their sites and across the accounts. Been with Sodexo about 10 years now. I guess previous background was in sort of environmental management and compliance, been sort of heading up the waste service line now for about 4 years.
Perfect. Okay, great. And Lugano, coming to you, before we get on to what who Loopcycle is and what Loopcycle does, do you want to give us some insight to your background as well?
Sure, and thank you for having me along today. Yes, my background is very much in sustainability and resource efficiency. Prior to Loopcycle, I was in the corporate world, working for a major property landlord at Canary Wharf, working with clients on their sustainability challenges, and particularly helping them get their head around resource management and showing tangible actions and impact. And so, it's something that I'm keen to continue in the role with Loopcycle now. So that's kind of been my background since.
Okay.
Great stuff. So Lugano, Loopcycle is a business whose mission is to break the take, make and waste cycle, I believe. So how would you describe the company to anyone who hasn't encountered it yet?
Yes, so Loopcycle is a technology platform, and our mission is to break the take, make, waste cycle, and we do that by empowering companies that dare to challenge the status quo. So what we do is we do this through product traceability. If you can give a product a lasting identity and a lasting value, then it's not likely to be treated as waste at the other side. So by doing that, working with manufacturers to produce traceable products that they can trace right through their value chain, we can enable them to find better uses at the end of their use, but also improve opportunities for them to be recovered back into the supply chain. And we do that through our technology that enables us to do that.
Great stuff. We'll come back to that and get a few more details from you. But just going back to Simon then. Recently, Sodexo really kind of emphasised their removing single-use plastics items initiative. So can you give us an idea of the scale of what you've been doing on that score?
Yeah, sure. So we've recently announced that we've eliminated a number of single-use plastic items out of our food service operations. So that relates to things like single-use plastic straws, stirrers, bags, polystyrene, and cutlery and plates. It's been a journey that we've been on for a number of years. So it's not something that we've just, actioned earlier this year. We've actually been on a longer journey now for about 3 years in sort of tackling single-use plastics. And I think what's key to note really is that it's not what we're trying to do is not just shift from one single-use plastic item to another material type, but actually trying to change the behaviors within Sodexo. So challenging the status quo. So if we take a straw, for instance, do we actually need that in our operations? Can we first of all prevent that? To reduce really the volume of waste that we're producing on client sites. So although we have eliminated a number of what we see as sort of problematic and unnecessary plastic packaging in our business, we're also trying to change the behaviours in switching to more reuse models.
And Simon, the phasing out program that you're working through at the moment, how far down the road are you with that? And how easy is it to implement something like that on such a large scale?
Yeah, so in terms of those items I've mentioned, that's been action. So as of the 1st of March, we're no longer procuring those items within our business. So that's happened. I guess the caveat is what we aren't doing is we're working through the stock items that we've already got, and there's nothing worse than creating additional waste, if you like. So we're actually working through stock items that we've got, and there are some challenges within the medical sector. For instance, there's still the need for a plastic straw for medical reasons, and within our justice segment, there are some items of plastic that are required from a health and safety reason that we're trying to work around and trying to find more sustainable alternatives. But we are on a journey, and we've been able to eliminate them as most of the items as of the 1st of March. And in terms of complexity for our food service sites, I think the challenge really comes in trying to challenge the behaviours around disposable items, trying to shift more to reusables. There are alternatives out there, so shifting from a plastic straw to a paper one is fairly straightforward for a food service site. I think the challenge is trying to challenge the status quo, and do we need that in the first place? Can we move to more reusable items when we start looking at cutlery, reusable cutlery, reusable cups and plates and china and things like that, rather than actually having disposable items in the first place. Although, at the moment with COVID, there are challenges obviously with needing to have food as sort of pre-packaged goods. So, in the short term, we may not see that huge shift, if you like, but in terms of sort of the longer medium term goals, that is our commitment in shifting to 100% reusable, recyclable and compostable packaging.
Right, okay. And I guess there's two parts to this. One is the removal aspect there, but then you've got to replace that. So when you look at things like cutlery and plates and takeaway bags and so on, how easy has it been to find sustainable alternatives to what you were using before?
Yeah, it's I guess it is a challenge. I think one of the biggest challenges is a lot of the sort of the greenwashing of sort of there's a lot of sort of confusing terminology out there. So when you start looking at well, what is the most sustainable alternative, there's a lot of credentials, there's a lot of terminology that can be confusing for buyers, particularly some of the buyers within Sodexo. But what we've done is we've developed a sourcing guide, so working in conjunction with our supply chain partners and our waste, and importantly the waste suppliers as well. So what we don't want to do is shift to a material type that will cause challenges further down the stream in terms of the waste industry. So we've developed a guide that's sort of looking at not only legal compliance. So I guess we all know there's across Europe we've got the EU Single-Use Plastics Directive in terms of banning certain items later this year. How that will transpose into the UK will be interesting. But on top of that, we've also looked at sort of the mindset. So looking at trying to shift more to these reuse and preventative models, looking at the actual material type. So shifting more to renewable resources, looking at the recycled content of items. So we've developed this within our sort of EU sourcing guide to help us, in terms of our decision making, in terms of selecting packaging items.
Okay.
Great stuff. So, say reusing and recycling, that's a lot of the kind of themes that Loopcycle is drawing upon. So, Lugano, how do you see that kind of initiative fitting within the catering equipment sector itself?
Yes, I think Simon's touched on a lot of really good points, and I think Simon, you really hit home on what the key challenges are around building a campaign or something that's actually going to last and become business as usual. The way we see Loopcycle working is Loopcycle is a product, but there also needs to be an ecosystem of people and processes that need to align to get the most out of your products and your initiatives. So Loopcycle is, it unlocks the opportunity for greater resource recovery by traceability. It helps end users to understand the products that they have, because a lot of the time, information and gaps in information are a key barrier to actually preventing recycling and circular initiatives from really happening. So through Loopcycle, we can help end users create product inventories, understand where all of their major assets are. We obviously help manufacturers understand where all of their assets and products go to. But actually, we also want people to align and processes to align to make sure internally that this product, the platform, just doesn't become something that sits on a shelf, but can actually help the people on the front line to actually increase their performance and measure it in a way that measure it and communicate it in a way that actually resonates with their staff. So I think, you know, we're very keen on working alongside operational teams as part of our process to not just say, here is a platform, go ahead and use it, but actually to understand how the businesses work, their challenges internally, the key staff who will be using those products and likely to benefit. And then what we can do is to make sure that the platform is positioned to maximize the way in which it's used and the outcomes that it delivers for all of those concerns. So I think it's a very exciting time, and hearing about the kind of thorough approach towards recycling that Simon's outlined, I think, you know, it gives me hope that actually something like what we're making with Loopcycle will be used really well and will help to complement that.
Good stuff. So what about kind of further back in the supply chain? I understand that you've engaged in conversation with a number of manufacturers already. So yeah, how far down the road are you with that, and what kind of feedback have they been giving you?
Yes, so we're currently working with a couple of commercial manufacturers, testing the product with certain product lines. You know, I think we're very confident around the technology, and the technology's been proven to work. Actually, what we're testing is different types of engagement messages with end users, because what Loopcycle is, it's a system, and it allows manufacturers, end users, and those intermediaries who conduct valuable services to all interact on the same platform. But the only way that can really successfully work is if each party is engaged in a way that resonates with them and shows how the platform adds value to their own business operations. So the manufacturers that we've worked with are helping to lead that engagement process with those distributors and third parties, and then with those end users as well, so that actually we find the best messages and through that get the greatest impact through the platform. So they've provided a lot of insight on that side of things.
And Lugano, from a supplier and a manufacturer point of view, for a supplier looking to engage with you, you know, everybody will be thinking, okay, what's in it? What's in it for me? What's the net benefit from a fiscal point of view as well? What would be your response to that, and what ultimately will a manufacturer sort of get from working on the platform?
Sure. I think wherever there is a new critical path that's developed between a manufacturer and an end user, that will always unlock potential for future kind of commercial opportunities. The key things, some of the key conversations that we've had have exposed things like, for example, better servicing of products. If they know where all of their products are going to, then they're able to offer better servicing solutions over the long term. They're able to improve repairability of products by offering repairability kits. And also by knowing when a product has reached the end of its use, it can be sold to another end user on the platform. By knowing those exchanges that happen, they're actually able to re-enter the conversation with new end users who may have an onward use, a second-hand product from a previous end user, to offer new services that will help them to get the best out of their products. So there is that commercial aspect. There is also I guess a reputational protection that's gained through Loopcycle as well. If a manufacturer knows that one of their products will be sold on the platform, is being sold on the platform, they can make sure actually that it's serviced properly, that it's maintained properly before it then goes on to another end user. So what happens is an end user won't receive a secondary product that then has a problem and a fault with it. They don't care about the fact that it's gone from another end user. What they care about is that it's from this manufacturer and they've bought this product and it doesn't work. So there is a safeguarding of reputation that's important there as well. So I guess all of that kind of equates to a much longer interaction with that customer by offering better service and then being able to sell a product, to upsell a new product at the end of it. Very similar to the automotive industry, to be honest. That's an example of where it's been done really, really well, where someone is a BMW driver for life or a Volvo driver for life because of the service and the onwards interaction that they have with the manufacturer from the first purchase.
Sure. Okay. But both of you have kind of touched on this theme or this word of circular, and I know the circular economy is really the big driver behind all this. Coming on to you, Simon, how much does that impact your role? Are you constantly looking at the assets that you've got from a food service and a kitchen point of view, and kind of looking at the sustainability around those?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's key, and it's really integral to the whole service that we deliver for our clients. So my primary role and the rest of the team is around designing sustainable circular solutions for our clients. So the kitchen equipment, it's an interesting one in that a lot of the time it's client owned, but again, we're there to advise our clients on what are the most sustainable solutions, and looking at what innovations are out there on the market to really drive higher sort of reuse and recycling targets and achievements really for our clients. So yeah, the whole shift from as we mentioned, I think right back at the beginning, the take, make, dispose, it's really just ripping that apart and looking at what solutions and how can we support our clients in maximizing that reuse and recycling piece on site.
Yeah, so Simon, how much emphasis would you or any other operator place on cost in terms of compared to sustainability? Is it more expensive to use sustainable alternatives, whether it be equipment or supplies or even food types?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think in most instances where you are segregating waste at source that's clean, it's not contaminated, there is always going to be financial benefits to that. The cost of disposing of all of your waste as general waste is always going to be higher than if you are going to source segregate. You're going to have materials presented for separately for collection, for recycling and reuse. So I think it's there are often challenges in terms of the internal infrastructure. So looking at potentially sites may need additional bins, they may need new processes, new storage areas to help accommodate the potentially maybe the bulk storage of recycled material on site. But it's overall we see that there's a financial driver to increasing recycling on the site. It's a no-brainer really.
Good stuff. So, I mean, Sodexo itself, you guys operate central kitchens and big kitchen facilities. So beyond focusing on the removal of single-use plastics, what other areas do you expect to occupy a lot of your time this year?
Yeah, food waste is one of our key strategic areas that we're investing a lot of time in. So we're currently going through a large deployment initiative at the minute of our Waste Watch Powered by Lean Path program, which will be key to really understand the volumes of food waste that we're producing as a business. It's quite often sort of the invisible elephant, if you like, in the room in terms of understanding the types of food waste, the reasons why we're creating food waste in the first place. Quite often you can see it back end, so you see it in a bin, you've got those weights, but understanding the granular piece in between about why that was created in the first place is key, and that's what the whole Waste Watch Powered by Lean Path program is about. It will give us that data to make informed decisions about optimizing our behaviors and operations around food waste. So that's key, and where we've deployed it to date, we've seen substantial reductions of up to 50% in food waste, and also on the procurement side of food products as well. So that's a key area for us in terms of waste management, really.
Is there a particular kind of waste management equipment challenge that you would love the industry to solve? If you could get a food waste equipment manufacturer to invent something or create a feature that would make your life and your site's lives easier, what would that be?
on the food waste side, I think the measurement and the understanding and the data, being able to measure food waste and have the data to inform your decisions is key. So I think for us, we've seen that as the gap, and that's what we've filled with the Lean Path technology. There are bits of kit out there to look at processing food waste on site, but I think, from a Sodexo point of view, prevention is always the first thing that we need to look at before we then start looking at back-end solutions in terms of managing the waste. Let's try and prevent it first, and that's the whole ethos behind our Waste Watch program. Is let's try and reduce food waste, and we've got the commitment to reduce food waste by 50% by 2025 across all of our sites as part of our sustainability strategy. So that for us is the first step, in terms of prevention, rather than looking at the on-site piece of potentially managing food waste on site.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And Lugano, just to bring you back into the conversation, you've kind of outlined how the Loopcycle model works and the platform could work for both users and suppliers. We haven't touched upon the cost model. Did you want to shed some light on that? Is it a subscription-based service, or do you offer a different fiscal model for signing up to it?
Yes, so we operate mainly a software as a service model for manufacturers, because manufacturers' job is to manufacture products. If they're manufacturing thousands of products, what they need is a platform that will allow these things to be, these processes to be automated, with as little human interaction on their part as possible. So we manage that service on behalf of the manufacturer. Obviously, this software as a service model varies according to the number of product lines that you want to register on the platform, number of sites, and the degree of components that you actually want to be registered in the platform. So one of our clients has actually registered right down from not just the unit itself that's registered, but 6 key components within that unit are also registered, and then even subcomponents from there are also registered. So that's quite a traceable bill of assets that have been created there. So that's how we work on the manufacturer side of things. End users, generally it's a marketplace model, because the drivers for end users being on the platform will vary from wanting to capture all of their assets and have them all registered under it. So for example, a kitchen will have a list of assets all registered in that kitchen area, or they would just want to register for secondhand sales, to sell equipment, or to find secondhand purchases. We take a commission on that secondhand sale. So it's very much a marketplace structure. So it's a two-sided revenue model for the manufacturers and for the end users alike.
Good, thank you for clarifying that. We're slowly running out of time, but Lugano, I'll just close out with one more question for you. So
sure.
Obviously the COVID pandemic has sadly seen a lot of food service sites close, and there's been a real kind of massive surplus of used equipment. So has that kind of helped or hindered your mission in that regard?
I think what it's done is it's highlighted the scale of the problem, and certainly from an end user perspective, a lot of this equipment, when sadly an outlet goes out of service, a lot of this equipment is actually written off, because it's mainly, some of this stuff is not lower than 3 years, but it's written off because there's a lack of understanding about what are the range of options to actually resell this equipment and recover revenue. And also the fact that once it's in there, a lot of it isn't actually known about, because a lot of these assets across many sites, because of inventory management, isn't always kept. So what it's highlighted actually is the need for a system through which all of this equipment can be captured, logged, and then at the end of its use, not end of life, and end of use, because they are two different things. At the end of its use, alternatives can be found, revenue can be recovered, but also that end user has the peace of mind of knowing where it's gone to afterwards. So that also enhances the circular, the kind of circular data or resource sufficiency data that comes out of that. So I think it's highlighted that the need for a solution that enables this to happen. You've noticed I've avoided kind of any positive terminology because of what it's unraveled and what COVID has exposed generally, but it has actually exposed this need for a better way of doing things that unlocks more onward value. I think that's probably the best way to put it for me.
Good stuff. Well, I'll say best of luck with that. We're now pretty much out of time. So thank you, Lugano. Thank you, Simon, for joining us today. And join us next week for another episode of Market Talk. Bye.